Hey folks, this is Brian uh, with a Gen Con update. Not really an update because it's already over, right? But anyway, Gen Con day two. I ran two games, one at 2 and the other at 7. First one was a Call of Cthulhu scenario, the old Carker estate, which is a down darker trails, Wild West kind of one. And it's a monster hunt, so it wasn't too difficult, but it did have um, some spell stuff in there, and the two things of Cthulhu that I don't really know well are spells and in detail the insanity rules. I know on basic construction on the insanity rules, but at certain points, certain things happen, but what those things really mean and how all the secondary roles that occur with that, I didn't have a good handle on. But the old Carker state actually went fairly well. Trying to think where my folks were because I had not run it before, but at Chaosium Con, I sat in. I was a player for it, so I could get a feel for how somebody else ran it. And I ran it pretty much the same. The GM at the time, did describe some things that he shortcutted, but I didn't worry about that. So everybody has a little introduction when they're at the boss's office, and he gives them the spiel. Okay, and I'll pay you $50. Pay him so much money to go and figure out what is going on with this estate because he's had people for the last 3 months just disappear on him. Although there was one skinny fella this last time who came into town, said the place was haunted, and was on the first stage out of town. So the players go. There's a couple of NPCs they can meet en route that they can learn things from. The first guy they didn't really bother with. Second guy they had some talking, but they didn't really strive to pull any information out of him. They got some information, but not a lot. And then they go up, and there's some rolls with things happening, uh, shale coming down, rolling to see if a horse gets hurt or if you get hurt, and then there's a miniature, or not miniature, baby rattlesnake attack and that sort of thing. And they get up to the estate, looking around. There's these holes that have been filled up partially, so it's just divots now, all over the place. And there's an old garden out back that's all overrun, and there's a shed on the other side that's got all kinds of stuff in it. Oh, again, spoilers. All kinds of foodstuffs in it, um, with various stages of decay and in different sorts of different markings of bags of marking, differently marked bags. So it's obvious that they've been over time, different folks and stuff. And then there's the outhouse, which is out front. The scenario talks about there being two doors, one in the front, one in the back. I took the back door out because it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. Um, and people are investigating around. Um, they did dig two of the folks, two of the players, two of the characters dug in two different spots through these divots, right? Trying to dig it out, kind of thing. And while they're doing that, another group is checking out the garden, and some guy saw something moving around the house. He's going around the house looking for something, and trying to remember because I ended up finishing one of Todd's games for him, and it was also this same scenario. So I'm getting the two cross-wired. But they what did they do? Shoot, I should have kept notes or something. They investigate the house. They find the pit. They get the ladder. There's a two-story building. There's a ladder instead of stairs to get to the second floor. Oh, they never went up to the second floor. They didn't really investigate much around on the main floor either, if I remember right. And they got down the pit, and the pit's covered with bones down the bottom. Turns out they're all human bones, and there's bits of clothing and tore up boots and a sprinkling of odds and ends like watches and buttons and things like that. And then there are three tunnels coming out of here. And they lowered the lantern down with some rope to get a look of stuff before they actually climb down. And there's the skittering stuff everywhere, right? Every time the light goes on or something happens, because there's a lady there taking pictures, or if there's a flash, everybody makes us listen rolls and spot hidden rolls to see if they hear the skittering around or if they see some motion of something somewhere. And they get down. Holy cow! There's one group where it was only 3 people went down. That was the second group. It was Todd's group. In my group, everybody went down. And at some point, there's a wham, because the trap door falls shut. The ladder's actually knocked down to the pit, and the trap door gets shut. And shoot, I remember. The bad guys don't win on my scenario. But all of the characters either die or go insane, except for the photographer, who manages to get her camera up out, and she takes off and heads back to town. So she won. I'm trying to remember. Holy cow, that's terrible. Shoot. But the second Carker Estate one, when the gunfighters went down, his cousin had gotten married and actually lived in this place a while back, and he finds evidence, a brooch that she had in the stuff down here, and so he was down, and the guy who's in charge of, who represents the estate, Neville, he was there, and the photographer lady, she was down there. There's the 3 of them, and they were wandering around, and they run up against, they call it brood mother. These just critters living down there, and there's just one big swollen belly out, lots of babies, and they're trying to moving around and stuff. And there's this python-like thing that's wrapped around her feet, but it's got feet off the back end and hands hanging off the neck, and the head's like an elongated African American female, which is the guy's cousin. So he goes insane. He actually faints, passes out. That's right. Both groups ran into that room, because in my group, um, one of the players, one of the characters, um, goes temporarily insane and can't see anything, and decides she's going to shoot anyway. Ends up shooting one of the other characters in the back, put him down. That's how he died. Ended up getting died. Plus, these things bite on you, and they hold on. They suck out your constitution and your strength, and the little critters are trying to do something specific, but one of the people isn't there, so they're trying to hurt all the rest. And you get their venom um, dulls you so that all of your rolls are at disadvantage. And if you have two succeeding failures on your Constitution roll from a bite, then you get paralyzed. And I know that happened to one of them. I think it was at that point where because I was one short, so there weren't six or only five. They're all down there. One shot in the back, one blind, one paralyzed. That happened with one, then the girl got away. Nasty stuff. But in Todd's game, that finished up for him because my must have been Friday night. The King's Gambit ended early because my King's Gambit game did end early, and Todd hadn't had dinner yet and had been there all day. So yeah, I sat down and took over his group, and in his group there was just the three of them, the gunfighter, and who were the other two? I think the photographer, gunfighter, the photographer, and Neville. That's right. Had gone down, and there's these two ghoul undead things that are trying to get Neville and the photographer, I forgot her name, to do this mind swap spell with, so they can take over their bodies because they're these undead husks that are down in this underground cavern thing. And that party went down the first tunnel, saw that room, all kinds of an um, uh, an eclectic collection of household goods on the expensive side. And in a rocking chair is a corpse, and on a settee is another corpse. But they just saw that and they left. They went to the other room. When they got to the second room, that's where the brood mother is. And that's where the one guy fainted, and the others took off. But the photographer along the way got paralyzed, fell. Lantern didn't break, and Neville was also insane, just kind of wandering around. He gets attacked by the magic, casting this, domination kind of stuff. Come follow me, come to the sacred chamber where we can do this ceremony thing. And he actually goes into that chamber, and there's a little shaman creature there who attempts to throw some spells. Because I'm not used to Cthulhu magic, I didn't do the power versus power thing right. It just, it really seemed to happen or work well. But the guy that fainted comes to, goes along to where the photographer was paralyzed, where the lantern is, and she's not there. So he grabs a lantern, he goes around front. Meanwhile, the other guys up on top. Hey, what's going on down there? Where are you guys happening? What's happening? And he goes there, pull me up, and they pull up and they throw dynamite down there and they take off, blow the place up, burn the house down. But the photographer and Neville were taken by the two ghouls, and so they're back in another chamber through all kinds of tunnels and stuff. So they're safe for now, right? So, weeks later, Neville shows up in town. Kind of thing. That's how that one ended. But the photographer did get back to the landowner, did her photography things, shows them pictures of some of these creatures and stuff, so she gets all her money and her stuff. So she won that game. The Eye of the Storm. A fun little scenario. You got three little competitions, and the oratory sing kind of competition deal always goes fairly well, except that my players failed. So the other team won, the NPC team won. They did do some of this intermingling, trying to do some, not espionage, but spying on the other, trying to get an advantage on the other team by doing different sorts of skill stuff, which was kind of fun. But then there's a second competition, which is like a wrestling match, right? there's four, two from each team inside this 4 meter square, and the idea is to throw both of the other team guys people out, right? And while keeping one of your own team inside the square. And then there's rules for grappling and there's rules for knockback that they bring up. And I've compared this a couple of times going, if you're going to try to do a grapple, right, you have to be successful in your grapple attack to grapple a part of the body, and then you have to successfully exploit that grapple the second round, another grapple skill, um, in order to find out if you do something. If you're trying to throw them, that's still a strength plus size against size plus dex. And when you first do your grapple, the guy can throw an attack to block. He can still parry, and so the odds of being able to do any kind of a grapple are actually fairly low. But if you're just doing a pushback, it's just a simple attack, and then it's the strength plus size against size plus dex, and you can knock him back at D3 meters. That's out of the ring. And so for this game, I said, hey guys, this is how it all works. This is how mechanically it's supposed to happen. But I have found, my experience is, just go for the knockback. Make a successful attack. Guy gets to do a parry or not, and then things happen. And one guy tried to do sort of a kung fu kind of move. You attack me, and I got to throw you away behind me, so you run out of the deal. But he ended up failing that roll or something. That just did not work. And the other team, the NPC team, ganged up on one person, get them out, and then gang up on the other person, get them out. When I say gang up, I didn't add their stuff together with their two separate attacks, but against the same person to try to get them out. And then the last one's a mock fight, where you've got this fire ring and everybody's inside. It's a 3-on-3 fight. Throughout the scenario, for these competitions, it talks about no magic, no magic, no magic. I don't remember if they actually talk about using magic or not. No, it does. But you can use magic in the fight, the mock fight. Not sure why, because somebody with a shield 2 up on top of this dull blade 4 that everybody has to have, you're never going to hurt somebody. Drop blood. And that's what it's first. Once you get 1 point damage, drop blood, get out of the ring. And so I just flat out, no magic, no armor. Again, first blood, and you've got dull blade 4, so minus 20% to hit, and you do minus 4 damage. So unless somebody gets a special or higher, that would take somebody out anyway. But that minus 4 applies and applies and applies. So it's really hard to actually do any kind of damage. And if you're wearing armor on top of that, or have magical protection, never happens. So that was my implementation of the rule. Okay, no armor, no magic, still no magic. The only thing we have is a dull blade 4 thing. And everybody's cast it, but the dull blade is a spirit magic, lasts for 10 melee rounds. And if somebody has a hard time casting the spell, that's going to suck up a lot of time. Okay, how long is it going to last? If we get to the end of 10 melee rounds and nobody's been hit or hurt enough to get out, we've got to recast the thing, right? Yeah. And there's supposed to be a deal where if I was paying enough attention, I would just watch the combat, and at a certain point I would call it with a storm coming in. But I always end the combat because I'm not paying attention. We're doing the fight. And then once the fight's over, oh, that's right. Storm's coming in. There's this crazy noise coming from the sky. Everybody make a scan roll. There's this creature flying. It hits the top of the tower. Bam! Rocks come flying. Everybody make another scan. Dodge if you can. Parry with a shield if you've got it. Jump out of the way. Rocks are falling down everywhere. Take some damage. And then there's, okay, who won? Who now owns a tower? Who's going to explore? Who's going to help? That kind of stuff. But the NPC team won. And they said, hey, can you help us figure out what's going on with this thing? A couple people did make their rolls, so they knew it was some kind of four-legged winged creature, and it bellows like a bull. And then there's rolls to get up because this thing is hundreds of years old, and the wooden stairs are falling apart. And so you've got to make a scan roll to find a path up, or a dex ×5 to dodge out of the way of things. And if you miss, you're going to fall through unless you can do is it a dodge? No, it can't be a dodge. That's too hard to do. Yeah, but so some people, well, there's the people that are outside the ring are still armored up because we're in Glorantha, we all wear armor. But the people inside the ring take a couple of rounds to start armoring up and putting something on, right? And then they start tromping up this. You got the ground floor, first floor, second floor, and the third is the top. But I've had people fall all the time. Um, there's a Storm Bull and an Orlando Adventurous that are on the NPC team that obviously tying this thing. It's a Sky Bull, right? So it's sacred to these guys. But for this scenario, those are the two that fell from the third to the second floor. Of course, you take damage when that happens, and that kind of stuff. But anyway, so the whole PC team gets up to the top before the NPC team, really gets up, and they see this thing going on. We talk about air runes, and this thing is wild. Its eyes are wild. Its broken wing has all been thrashed on, and then there's these 4 harpies that are on it, trying to pull it over the wall and off the tower. And then there's a bunch of harpies up there flying around, throwing down poop and swooping down, picking up rocks, and coming down and scratching at you, that kind of stuff. So most of the PCs are shooting up into the flock of harpies, trying to get rid of them. And it says they have so many harpies per player. I don't remember now what it is, but I just I don't keep track of how many harpies there are. Okay, and every time they hit, it was taking out a wing or worse, right? So okay, there's one down. I just keep track on one piece of paper how many times to keep getting them down. But the thing is, these 4, because we got 4 harpies pulling the Sky Bull, they're not going to get it off. But if you get a 5th one on there, they're going to pull it off. And so there's like a round or two where they can see they're not getting any advantage, and so more come down to pull that sucker off. Meanwhile, you've got a couple people making air rune rolls to get close to the Sky Bull without it freaking out on them in order to heal it, or to get close enough to fight some of the harpies on it, and that kind of thing. And they were successful. We had 2 guys fighting harpies, and they had 2 people healing. They're throwing a rune spell. They're pumping a bunch of magic points into it, and so it was almost completely healed in like 2 rounds. And we had one of the players throw a javelin, actually attack one of the harpies. I think it was. No, it was after these 2 harpies went off. Still 2 harpies. Somehow they got them all harpies. Maybe they're throwing javelin or something. But then we talk about firing into melee, right? I count the Sky Bull as 2 targets, and then they got the 2 harpies, so there's 4 targets there. You're aiming at 1, so you're at 1/4 of your skill. And if you roll, low 1 or 2, then you hit one of the harpies, the one you wanted to, or the other one. But if you roll high, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, doing a D6 kind of thing. Maybe it was a D4. I would have been D4 on that one. You hit the Sky Bull, right? But they didn't hit the Sky Bull. And I seem to recall them getting all the harpies off of that Sky Bull. So there's a whole, 5 harpies coming down to get the Sky Bull. And so the players that are shooting up in the harpies see coming down, they're shooting at those ones. So, kill some on the way down. And at that point, I think we're getting close to time. So I just do the whole end thing where the Sky Bull comes and the Sky Bull, Storm Bull comes. The Sky Bull's been healed. It can fly now, so it's going to take off. And the Storm Bull shows up, lightning flashing, special, super cult stuff happening, and the harpies all fly away, and hooray for the players! Everybody gets reward. Not too bad. But that was day 2 for me. Old Carker State and the Eye of the Storm. Happy gaming.